Hi there, my name is Kate Tallman and I'm a Government Information Librarian here at the University of Colorado Boulder. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about government resources that you can use during your project to paint a better picture of the demographic and political condition of your country. But your first question might be, why government information? I don't quite understand why that's relevant to this project. But to be honest, most governments, particularly the United States, play a very large role in beyond making laws and governing. In fact, the U.S. Congress is the largest publisher in the United States. So governments are responsible for holding censuses where they collect statistics on the population, and most governments also collect statistics on the economy, the environment, and even the climate. Intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations or international organizations like the World Bank also collect data on a wide variety of characteristics like education, the economy, infrastructure, health, and poverty. So keep in mind that you're selling your city and country. If, for example, your country has a high poverty rate, you can always counter that with another statistic, say a growing population with a bachelor's degree or a significantly lower prevalence of disease. So with all of this said, I'm going to introduce you to 5 different resources split up into 3 different categories. Each of these should be simple to use and will provide most of the information that you need to promote your city and your country for the Olympic Committee. These will be divided into 3 different categories. First, we're going to look at population. We're going to analyze some demographics. We're going to look at nationalities, religion, political parties, political structure, and transnational relations. Second, we're going to look at development indicators, so things like health, education, poverty, and basic human needs and rights. And finally, we're going to look at doing business in your country. So corruption and politics. How easy is it to actually get a building permit for your project? Or are you going to have to bribe somebody in the government office that you're going to be working at? These are all very important things for the Olympic Committee to consider when listening to your bid. So the first thing we're going to look at is population, and we're going to have 2 resources for that. It's the UN data and CIA World Factbook. And I think it would be a good idea for you to write these down because these are things that you need to search for in Chinook later. So, some of these, as I said, we will locate them through the library catalog, and some of them will be easy to find using Google. In this first video, we're going to find these 2 resources using the library catalog. So we're going to start at the UCB Libraries homepage. By now, hopefully you know that that's ucblibraries.colorado.edu. And in the search box, I'm going to type in UN data. I'm going to go directly to the resource and then I'll explain it to you a little bit. So this is a massive database of statistics that the UN has compiled, so I'm going to keep it really simple for you. Instead of taking your time going to Google and looking up the National Statistics Office for each of your countries, you can actually get that information through the United Nations, in addition to having a summary page describing some of the data and statistics about your population. So I am going to go ahead and use Russia as an example, and specifically Sochi if possible, throughout this whole video tutorial, because that's the most recent Olympics that we're dealing with. And either I could type Russia into the search box, but actually what I want to do is go to Country Data Services, this box here on the bottom right. I'm going to scroll down until I find Russia. And instead of just immediately clicking on the link, I want you to notice that this link right here is for the Country Data Service. And this link right here takes you to the United Nations country profile with data and statistics on Russia. So I'm going to click on that. And when I get there, I get a nice overview and a nice country profile of Russia. You can see some summary statistics with populations, population density, and capital city population. You get some economic indicators that can be important for you to point out. Employment in agricultural and industrial sectors, social indicators, environment indicators, and trade profile. But the reason why I wanted to take you to the UN data page is not only to see these statistics, but also to see the related links to the right-hand side. If you clicked on the World Statistics Pocketbook, that would pop up a PDF with a summary of all of these statistics. And another thing it does is it takes you to the State Statistical Service. So this takes me directly to Russia's State Statistical Service. Instead of having to go through Google from UN data, I have access to a variety of resources. Now keep in mind, when you go to any sort of Bureau of Statistics for a country that's in a different language, there's most likely going to be an English option. So if I go up to English, you're going to find that throughout all of your websites. I'm not going to take the time right now to find the specific population statistics for Sochi, but as you can see, it's laid out pretty well. We all know how to use websites, so I doubt that you'll have any trouble when you search for your Bureau of Statistics for your different countries. So this is just one example of a database that provides statistics about country populations and demographics. The next place I'm going to take you is the CIA World Factbook. Now once again, I can just search for this in my search box on Chinook. I'm going to connect to the latest online resource, and this takes me to the World Factbook. So this database gives you a little bit more information about the structure of your population. For example, what is the primary religion, nationality, what different languages are spoken. It also speaks to the structure of your government. So is it a constitutional monarchy or a democratic regime? And finally, it does briefly cover transnational relations. So if there are any conflicts with any other governments, perhaps the Olympic Committee would like to know that, and you can mention that. So you will see an example of this in just a moment. And again, I'm going to use Russia. And it's very easy to find the country profiles on the CIA World Factbook. It's right here in the scroll down menu. This gives me a nice overview of Russia. Generally it pops up some pictures. And down here you can see a variety of menu options. People and societies, where you really get into the demographics of your society. You can see what percentage of your population is Russian, Ukrainian, etc. You can see the different religions. You can see the population, age structure, all kinds of great information here that you can pull out and summarize very easily and very briefly for your presentation. Another thing I wanted to point out, and in fact, there's so much information here that I need to make it a little bit smaller. Here's the government information. This tells you that it's a federation. It gives you the capital city, it tells you who the president is and the executive branch, and it goes over a little bit of the legal system and the Constitution. And finally, one of the ones I wanted to point out was transnational issues. This gives you a very brief overview of what's going on politically within your country. It touches on the very specific topics that they're dealing with right now. For example, refugees and internally displaced persons, trafficking, and illicit drugs. So whatever is really important that's going on in your country at that time, this discusses those issues, so at least you're knowledgeable about them in case anybody has questions during your presentation. So those are just two examples of websites that are fairly easy to use to find demographic information. In the next video, we are going to cover international organizations and development indicators.